Nobody told me that healing would feel this lonely. They told me to do the work, go to therapy, set the boundaries, break the patterns, and I did. I started doing all of these things, and somewhere in the middle of all of that work, I looked up and I realized I felt more alone than I ever had. Not because I had done something wrong, not because the healing wasn't working, but because healing changes you. And when you change, not everyone comes with you. If you're in the middle of your healing journey and you feel a specific kind of loneliness that's hard to explain, this video is for you. Because what you're feeling is real and it makes complete sense, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. In this video, we're going to talk about why healing from toxic family dynamics is one of the loneliest things that a person can do, the specific reasons this loneliness hits the hardest, and that one thing that happens to your relationships when you start to heal that no one prepares you for, and how to find your way through the loneliness without abandoning all of your hard work. Here's why healing is lonely by nature. Toxic family systems are built on everyone staying in their role. The scapegoat stays the scapegoat. The peacemaker keeps the peace. The one who speaks up gets punished until they stop speaking up. The one who needs too much learns to need nothing. These roles exist because they serve the system, not you, the system. They keep the dysfunction running smoothly. They keep the power where it already is. And they keep everyone in the family in relationship with each other, even if that relationship is painful, because at least it's familiar. When you start healing, you start stepping out of your role. You stop managing everyone else's emotions. You stop shrinking so that others can expand. You stop absorbing blame that was never yours. You start to take up space, and the system, the people in it, they push back. Because your healing starts to threaten the stability of that entire dynamic. Not because they are necessarily conscious of it, but because your role was load bearing, and when you step out of that role, things shift. That is the first source of the loneliness. You're healing in an environment that was built to keep you sick. This is where people really recognize themselves. The second thing that happens when you start healing is that your existing relationships start to feel different. Not all of them, but some of them. And this is the part that nobody prepares you for. Some relationships were built on your people pleasing. They worked because you always said yes. You always made yourself available. You always absorbed the difficult emotions, and you never asked for too much in return. So when you start healing, when you start saying no, when you start having needs, when you stop pretending to be okay all the time, those relationships get uncomfortable, and sometimes they end. And that is grief. Even when the relationship wasn't healthy, even when you know logically that you are better off, the loss of a relationship, even a painful one, is still a loss. And grieving it while also trying to heal is exhausting. Some relationships were built on shared dysfunction. The friendship where you both bonded over your terrible families and your terrible choices and your inability to get out of your own way. When you start getting out of your own way, when you start healing, that friendship can feel like it has no foundation anymore. Because the thing that you bonded over was the wound, and you are trying to close the wound. And then there are people who simply don't understand what you're doing or why, who think you're being dramatic, who tell you that your family wasn't that bad, who can't see what you're healing from because they never had to look at their own family that honestly. And all of this together, the relationships that shift, the ones that end, the ones that can't meet you where you are, this creates a specific kind of loneliness. The loneliness of becoming someone new in a world that knew the old version of you. But here's what I want you to understand about this loneliness. It is not permanent. It is not evidence that healing was a mistake, it's evidence that is working. Let me explain. When you are in your wound, when you are in the people pleasing, the self abandonment, the pattern of attracting chaos, you are surrounded by people who fit that version of you. Chaos finds chaos, unavailability finds unavailability. People pleasers attract people who love to be pleased. And as you heal, as you become someone who has a clearer boundary, who knows their worth, who stops performing, who stops pretending to be okay and actually starts living it, you start not to fit in those spaces anymore. And the loneliness you feel is partly the gap between who you were and who you're becoming. You've outgrown some of what was familiar, but you haven't yet built what's next. So that gap is so real and it is uncomfortable. But it's not a sign that you've done something wrong. It's a sign that the old container was too small for who you're becoming. I want to pause here and mention two things. If you're in the middle of your healing and you're having interactions with family members or people from your past that are leaving you activated, you feel tense, unable to sleep, replaying conversations, the People Pleaser's Emotional Reset Guide walks you through how to come back to yourself after those interactions. It's free and the link is in the description. And if you're finding that you freeze in conversations, especially the hard ones where you need to hold your ground or speak your truth, the Freeze Response Recovery Kit gives you the exact words for those moments. Both links are in the description below. So here's how to move through it. First, let yourself grieve the relationships that can't come with you. That is not a weakness, this is necessary. You're not just healing from your childhood, you're also grieving the family that you needed but didn't get, and the relationships you wanted to work but couldn't work. The version of yourself that tried so hard and still got hurt. That grief is real and it deserves to be treated as such. So don't rush this process. Second, be honest with yourself about who in your life is actually safe. Not everyone who has been around for a long time is safe, and I've learned this the hard way. Not everyone who calls themselves your friend has the capacity to support the person that you're becoming. Safety is not about history. It's about whether someone can be with you in your growth without needing you to stay small for their comfort. Third, find your people intentionally. The community that you need now is not going to be found in the same places as before. The people who understand this journey are often in therapy, they're in support communities, they're in spaces specifically built around healing from toxic family dynamics. All you have to do is look for them. They exist. And the connection you feel with someone who truly gets it, who has been through a version of the same thing, is a different kind of belonging than anything you've ever experienced. Fourth, let the loneliness inform you without letting it stop you. The loneliness is telling you something. It is telling you that you have changed and your environment hasn't caught up yet. Use that information. Let it point you toward what you're building next, rather than take you backwards towards what you've outgrown. Healing is supposed to feel good, they said, and it does eventually, but in the middle it is often disorienting and quiet and lonely in a way that is hard to explain to people who have never been through it. You're not doing it wrong, you're just in the middle. And the middle is the hardest part because you've already let go of what was familiar, but you haven't fully arrived at what's next. Keep going. The loneliness is not the destination, it's just the passage. And if this video said something you needed to hear today, share it with someone who is in the middle of their own healing and might need to know that they're not alone in the loneliness. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for each other is just say, "Me too." Subscribe for weekly videos on healing from toxic family patterns, and comment below what is the hardest part of your healing journey for you right now. I read every single comment, and I'll see you soon. Take care.